Hello, my name is Heidi Rasakari, and today I would like to welcome you to our Poison Centre webinar, Ensuring Compliance for Industrial Use Only Mixtures. Together with my colleagues, we will cover today a status update on the CLP revision, as well as provide you with the latest in support and guidance. You will also have the opportunity to ask your questions to our live Q&A panel, so please visit slido.com and use the event code that you see on the screen. We ask that you submit your questions that are within the scope of today's webinar, and if your question is not answered, please use the contact form. We always make our webinar material available from our webinars page, which includes the video recording, presentations, and the Q&A transcript. So that brings us to the very first presentation, what you need to know about industrial use only mixtures. Just to set the scene a little, the first compliance date has now passed, which was on the 1st of January 2021 for consumer and professional use mixtures. But now the second compliance date is fast approaching for industrial use only mixtures, which begins from 1st of January 2024. There is also a transition period, which ends 1 year later from the 1st of January 2025. Just a little fun fact for you, to date, the ECHA submission portal has seen over 5.3 million notifications concerning all use types go through. So let's come to the topic of the second compliance date for Poison Centre notifications. So as I mentioned before, the compliance date for industrial use only mixtures begins from 1st of January 2024. Now, from this point in time, all new to market mixtures, whether they be consumer, professional, or industrial use only, will need to be notified in the harmonised format. But what is an industrial use only mixture? Well, these mixtures indeed must be used only at industrial sites, and they can be supplied as either an industrial end use product, such as a very specific automobile paint, or it could be a mixture, more specifically a mixture in mixture, that is used to reformulate other industrial use only products. Now, it is not necessarily the same as a mixture for industrial use because it's based on the concept of end use. So, an industrial use only mixture must not be available to consumer or professional users, whether they are supplied as is or reformulated. Coming to the topic of the transitional period, all existing national notifications that were submitted to appointed bodies will be valid until the 1st of January 2025. From this point in time, all existing national notifications will require a notification in the harmonised format. This means a UFI will also be required. That said, any changes to the product may also trigger a notification in the harmonised format, including new toxicological information, classification, or trade names. You may be wondering what to do if your product is discontinued before the end of the transition period. In such cases, there is no need to make a new submission. We are also asked, what about relabeling old products after 2025? I will cover two scenarios here. The first is for the duty holder. So from the 1st of January 2025, the duty holder will have to create a UFI and ensure that the products are correctly labelled when placing their hazardous mixture on the market. Now, there may be products in their warehouses that will need to be relabeled. and you may like to consider possibly the use of stickers in such cases. For distributors, on the other hand, from the 1st of January 2025, they may not need to, or rather they do not need to, relabel products on their shelves with the UFI, provided that the products that they received were CLP compliant when supplied. Now, I've mentioned the importance, or I've mentioned the UFI a few times. I would really like to mention the importance of the UFI. Firstly, the main principle is that one UFI can only ever be assigned to one mixture composition. However, the UFI is flexible, and one mixture composition may have multiple UFIs. That's allowed. The UFI, however, is most important. Its most important use is by the poison centres to identify a unique mixture composition. And this is the reason why one UFI can only ever be assigned to one mixture composition. The UFI is also reused by industry to protect confidential business information. So it's very important that everyone along the supply chain correctly generates, manages, and reuses the UFI. This is vital to assist poison centres in their daily work. The next few slides I'd like to discuss with you concerns industrial use only notifications and some areas in Euclid that pertain only to this use type. The first is making a limited submission. This is only available to industrial use only mixtures, but the use of the limited submission is optional. If you do decide to make a limited submission, it means that you can use the limited compositional information from the SDS. All other information must be provided in the notification. Secondly, a limited submission requires that a contact person must be available around the clock to rapid access if more information is required by an appointed body or their poison centre. And this contact must be in all relevant languages indicated in the dossier header. I'd like to mention the use type. So if you are making an industrial use only submission, you can only select the use type industrial. This means that a downstream user cannot use the mixture to reformulate consumer or professional products. The industrial use tick box is also available to industrial mixtures that have an end use not subject to notification. This could be a final mixture that's not classified, or a final mixture that's classified for environmental hazard only, or if it's falling outside of the scope of CLP, such as a cosmetic product. Packaging for industrial use only is not strictly necessary to provide, but it's also not necessary to provide for industrial mixtures as well. The product category, or the European Product Categorization System, one main intended use from this system is required per product record. Please do select the EU PCS category with care. And if you're unsure, then reach out to your industry association or request a change through the contact form. A few tips here. All of the top level categories should be covered in the EU PCS. So mixtures categorized as uncategorized should be rare. If you find that you cannot find a selection or make a selection from the EU PCS, then please let ECHA know. Secondly, if you select that your mixture is for further formulation, it should only be for industrial end-use products only. A few points here about contact numbers. Now, making a limited submission, you do need to provide a contact person for rapid access, as I mentioned earlier, around the clock. Now, it also needs to be a contact person who can provide more information in the relevant languages. This contact person for rapid access is not necessarily the same as the emergency telephone number used in section 1.4 of the safety data sheet. I should also point out that some poison centre information centres do charge fees, for example in Ireland. Additionally, any contact details of appointed bodies should not be used in the notification or in the safety data sheet. And just a few final words on using the ECHA submission portal. We do encourage you to check our member state overview document. It covers information such as fees, national requirements, and languages, for example, that are different in different member states. Then there are some member states that will continue to operate their national submission systems for industrial use only mixtures, and these will remain open until the 1st of January 2024 in a handful of member states. Please also check the language that you put in your notification. Some member states only accept information in their own national language and not English. If you are also happening to submit your notifications to Northern Ireland, you cannot do so in the submission portal. You must make use of the UK national system. Thank you for your attention. That concludes my presentation.
Hello, welcome to this webinar also from my side. My name is Daniele Ape and I'm a member of the ECHA Poison Center team. In my presentation, I will provide you with an update on the CLP revision process, and I will focus in particular on the impact that the revision will have on the Poison Center notification system. The revision of CLP is part of two ambitious programs, namely the European Green Deal and the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability. They have the main objective of turning the EU into a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy. Meanwhile, the other objectives are to protect the citizen and to boost the innovation for safe and sustainable chemicals. In particular, the revision of the CLP wants to serve the one substance, one assessment principle, which is shared with many other European chemicals legislation. The revision of CLP aims also at adapting the regulation to technical and scientific process, wants to push and prioritize more the use of harmonized classification and the importance of the harmonized classification, wants also to help in identify and classify hazardous chemical. Finally, the CLP revision wants to address some of the legal gap and non-compliances which were identified over the last months and years. The CLP revision, which is undergoing now, is divided in two parts. We have an ordinary legislative procedure, which is a longer and more complex procedure, which wants to address the body of the CLP. So there will be changes in the actual articles of CLP. And much faster delegated act is a process which foresee the involvement of the Commission and the competent authorities only, and affects the one annex of the CLP regulation, in particular Annex I, which includes the other classes and the criteria for classification. This process is actually finished already. The delegated act was published in March this year and entered into force in April this year. Let's have a look now to the Delegated Act. As we said, it affects only one annex of the CLP regulation. So to the list of existing hazard classes, we have 4 new hazard classes. We have 3 hazard classes related to environment and 1 related to human health, so, namely the endocrine disruptors. And for poison center notification purposes, of course, this is the most relevant. The Delegated Act foresees also specific application dates, which are different for substances and mixture. So until 1st of May 2025, the new hazard classes and new criteria will not be mandatory for substances, while for mixture, the new hazard classes will apply only from 1st of May 2026. After these dates, new substances and new mixture, respectively, will have to be classified and labeled according to the new criteria. There will be, of course, a transition period for both substances and mixture already on the market before these application dates. During this period, the new criteria will be still not mandatory for mixture and substances already on the market. Now, the differences between application date and transition period will have an impact with regard to poison center notification. In fact, we may have the situation in the near future where a notification will need to be updated to reflect the new classification and labeling of substance components, while the classification of the final mixture will not need to be updated accordingly. Of course, we always recommend submitter to apply the same criteria to both substances and mixture. The impact on the poison center notification system is expected to be limited with regarding to the Delegated Act. There will be an expansion of the scope, and while the cases of new mixtures not originally classified and classified only for the new hazard classes will be probably limited, it will be more common that there will be the need to update existing notification to reflect the new hazard classes. The Euclid format, of course, will need to be revised, and this is not only related to poison center notification, but to many other regulatory frameworks which rely on the same Euclid format. So there will be the addition of the new record to provide information about the new hazard classes and labeling. Our IT tools in general will need to be updated to allow industry to submit the new information and authorities to receive and digest the new information. We will also revise the validation assistant and, of course, guidance and practical guide. Now, with regard to the adaptation timeline, the adaptation of our tools, the Euclid format revision will follow the normal schedule. We have normally one major release per year, and this now happens in April. So the new hazard class records will be included in the format which will be released in April 2024. Of course, a test version will be available a bit in advance in order to be able to test the new format. With regard to the validation assistant revision, we do not expect new rules. So the current list will not be affected, the description will remain the same. But we will need to revise a bit how the rules work, the algorithm behind the rules, in order to reflect the new information. But this should not have an impact on the actual user. When it comes now to the ordinary legislative procedure, which is still ongoing, at the moment there is the trialogue between Commission, Parliament and Council. So we do not have the final text yet, even if we can make some assumption based on the Commission draft proposal. A final text is expected to be ready at the beginning of 2024 and should enter into force later in the year, around June 2024. Now again, we will focus this presentation on the impact on poison center notification, while the changes in the legal text will be much more. The draft revised legal text mentions the need to ensure that there is a supplier in the EU to ensure that the CLP requirements are met. It's important to underline that there is no addition of any new operator beside those that are already existing. So there is no such a figure of the only representative in reach. The different operator remain the same, but the main aim is to avoid that obligation may be placed on consumers, for example, in case of direct online sale from non-EU supplier. The actual impact of this new provision is expected to be mainly on guidance, where we will explain a bit more in detail what it means and which is the role of this supplier in EU that needs to be present. We do not expect any changes in the obligation for importers, for instance. Another important change is the definition of duty holder under Article 45. So the revised legal text, at least the draft revised legal text, includes the distributors under the definition of direct duty holder under Article 45. And these were requested by the authorities who notice issues in case of data information gaps, in case, for example, of distribution across member states, or in case of relabeling, rebranding. So the draft revised legal text still clarified that there is no need for submission by distributor if the information is already included in the supplier notification. So in principle, in practice, things should not be much different from now, but the distributor now will have a direct obligation to ensure that the information is provided to the relevant appointed body. Now we will have to clarify, and we will do it in guidance and practical guide, a few important aspects, like for example when a distributor is expected to notify themselves, and how to prove that the information has been already provided to the relevant appointed body by the supplier. There may be potential changes in the format, in case it will be defined that will be clarified that more than one duty holder may be included in the same submission, and there may be potentially changes in the validation rule, but we do not have the detail now, and we will provide more detail later after the legal text, the revised legal text will be finalized and published. Finally, the last important change concerns more ECHA, the role of ECHA and the access right. The draft revised legal text intends to facilitate further the support that ECHA can provide to authorities, and should provide more robust legal basis for ECHA's role when we receive and pre-process notifications. Again, as I say, the final legal text is not available yet, so neither the interpretation, and we recommend everyone to follow ECHA and our normal channel when we will in the future provide more information, in particular after the legal text will be finalized. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Pedro Roseo Vilarroch. I'm a scientific officer here at the European Chemicals Agency. I will go through now the support and guidance material that is available for you. The first one is the guidance on Annex VIII. This should be the first reference material you should read after the legal text itself. Guidance documents are agreed amongst the European Chemicals Agency, the European Commission, the Member State competent authorities, and our accredited stakeholders. This means industry associations mainly, but other parties also. The last update of this document was in 2022. This document covers explanations about the scope of the duties, roles in the supply chain, how to handle the UFI in the supply chain, and explains also about the information requirements and how you can fulfill them. The next revision of this guidance document will come next year, when there's also the revision of the CLP regulation, as explained by my colleagues previously. This document is already translated into all EU official languages, so please refer to them for your convenience. The next document is the practical guide. After reading the guidance document, here you will find the information on how to do those tasks using our IT tools. This is a very useful document, and as I mentioned here, most of the questions we receive are at some point replied in this document. We try to keep this document alive and up to date because of the different changes in the IT tools. So the next one is expected to come out already at the end of this year. However, it will be only in English. The translations will come only later next year after the CLP revision has been published and we have a clear understanding of which are the changes in the Euclid format. And if you want to practice, there are the trial environments. This is like a sandbox. You can go there and you can practice. You can see how the interface works and which are the mechanics of both the ECHA submission portal and the Euclid cloud. In case you are already familiar with Euclid and you have a standalone version, you can upload to the ECHA submission portal, the trial environment, those files and see how the system will react to those. We even have a video tutorial. This is a video that explains how to create a general submission case from beginning to end. And this is available in our YouTube channel and also in this link through the e-learning section in the support part of our website. More material that you have are the questions and answers targeted to very specific points based on the questions that we have received in ECHA. We moved them recently in spring to a new platform where we hope it will be easier for you to find the exact question and the exact answer that you need. You can do search in that search box and you can filter by different chapters. We are already reviewing them and you can expect a new version of them before the end of the year. Don't forget that there are also your national help desks. CLP national help desks are your first point of contact for all regulatory questions you have about the Poison Center notification, but also on CLP in general, as there's a clear overlap here. You have there a link with the list and the contact details of all of the national help desks. Please choose the one that is relevant for you. You will, in any case, get the same advice, as this is harmonized to the network of help desks, which includes ECHA. They are also aware of other national legislation that could affect you, and of course they can provide the reply on your national language. Finally, we have a group in LinkedIn. There you have the name, ECHA's Poison Center Notification Group. We invite you to go there, to ask also questions there, but also to share experience amongst notifiers. So to conclude, I want to make the point that there's plenty of information available to prepare for the compliance in different formats at different levels with different degrees of detail. And most of it is translated, not only the documents I've referred to, but also our website where there's, for example, the steps you can follow to comply with the duties. And also, please remember there are the CLP National Help Desk, which are there also to help you in your language.
Hello and welcome to the live Q&A session. My name is Anita Tuomainen and I will be your moderator for this session today. Our panel here is made up of our ECHA experts. So here with me are Heidi Rasikari and Daniele Ape, whose presentations you just saw. So thank you for both of you for joining this session. We have quite a few questions there to go through, but before we start, I would like to remind about some practicalities. So you can keep sending us questions until the end of the event. So you can use the slido.com and the event code is PC2023. If you have any questions outside of the scope of this webinar, kindly use our contact form at the ECHA website, echa.europa.eu, and click on the tab Contact on the top of the page. All questions in this Q&A session will be answered in a separate document, and that document will be published on our website as soon as possible after this event. The presentations are already available on the webinar page, and the recordings will be available as soon as the event ends. We have the feedback form running, so kindly if you could take some time to reply so we can then in the future improve our events. Okay, so if we now get started with the questions. We have a question regarding the 24-hour emergency contact. A 24-hour emergency contact must be specified for limited submissions. Can this contact be an external service provider? Would this be something for you, Heidi, to check?
Yes, thank you, Anita. And thank you for the question. Indeed, a 24-hour contact must be specified for limited submissions. It is a contact for rapid access, and this can be an external service provider. The thing to be aware of here is that it must be someone who can provide the information to the appointed bodies, and it must be able to be provided in the relevant language of that appointed body.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Next one is a question. If I sell my mixture notified as industrial use, but my customer use it in a mixture in a final product for consumer, I have to change the submission type and use type. And if my customer sells it directly to the consumer. Daniele, would you reply to this one?
Thank you, Anita, and good morning also to everyone else from my side. Yes, so as you have heard in the presentation, the notification type and the use of the mixture has to reflect the use of the mixture downstream. So not only how the mixture itself is used, but also whether it is used in to formulate further product down the supply chain. So it's very important to communicate upstream and downstream with your supplier and with your clients to check and to be sure how the mixture is used. This because if you submit a notification for industrial use only, the mixture cannot be used or should not be used in a consumer and professional product downstream. And for instance, the notification of in case of your supplier will have some problem. So in case you submit a limited submission and you get to know afterwards that the mixture is actually used in consumer professional product, yes, you are supposed to update to a standard submission. In this case, your customer will be able, for instance, to identify this mixture used as a meme with the euphemism.
Okay, thank you, Daniele. And the next question, is there a possibility that the deadline will be extended?
I can take this question. Thank you, Anita. The deadlines, well, they're not really deadlines, they are compliance dates, and these are set out in the legislation. So it's not something that can be changed very easily. In this case, the deadline or the compliance date will not be extended. So it will continue on as of 1st of January 2024 for industrial use only mixtures.
And the next question is it a problem to have a supplier of a MIM from outside the EU? And if yes, why? Daniele, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the issue here is that the CLP and in general the EU regulation, they apply to legal entity based in EU. They don't apply outside the EU. The reason why the regulation asks for a supplier of the MIM is when you don't have the full information about this MIM. So the supplier of the MIM is the company who is the person who is supposed to be contacted by the authorities in case in order to get information about this MIM if it's needed. Since the authorities in EU, they don't have any power on non-EU legal entity, it is important that the supplier of the MIM is a EU company, so they will be obliged actually to provide information to the authorities.
Okay, thank you, Daniele. And the next question is about food additives. Are food additives, food colors, which are not intended for end users, eligible for submissions? And which one would you like to take? Okay, Daniele.
Thank you. So the CLP regulation includes certain exemption for a number of products when they are in the, it's quite clearly stated in the regulation in Article 1, when they are in their finished state intended for the final users. So if the mixture does not meet this definition, then it is under the scope of CLP and needs to be notified. So this needs to be verified by the company itself. We have also some Q&A on our website that you can consult, and also depends on the state. How is the state of this mixture? And this applies also not only for food additives, but for another series of products which are listed in Article 1 of CLP.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is about UFIs. Is it possible that the same UFI can be generated by two different companies? And would Heidi, that be for you?
Yes, thank you, Anita. The UFI is generated with two input parameters. So it is the VAT number and the formulation number. Using these two input codes, it's not possible for a company to generate a UFI compared to a second company. What we would like to stress here is that correct management of UFIs is extremely important. So in some cases, maybe you need to be careful if you are using the UFI for in your own systems. You need to be very careful with how you manage them and put them on the label and into the notifications. Maybe Daniela, you have something to add to this as well.
No, I think it's fine. It's very important only to underline the importance of the correct use of the UFI. In particular, we have noticed some potential problem with company submitting maybe many notification via the so-called system-to-system. So we want to stress once more the importance to verify the UFI you are used and to verify exactly what you are doing and which kind of notification you are using. Please keep in mind that the UFI is supposed to identify univocally a specific composition, even if it can be placed on the market by different company, but is an element, is an identifier which is actually used by the poison center to identify the mixtures. It's very important that you use it wisely and you make sure that you are not using the same UFI in different notifications.
Thank you both. And the next question is, how should paragraph 4.2.8.2 be correctly interpreted according to CLP Annex VIII? When exactly is industrial use exempt from a statement on the label? When also for consumer or professional use? And would this be Daniele? Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, assume you're referring to the paragraph in the guidance, which simply says that mixture used at the industrial site, they may be exempted by the UFI on the label. So this is the difference between mixture for industrial use only and mixture to industrial site. So this means that even if the mixture is used downstream to formulate product used for consumer purposes or professional purposes, as long as the mixture is supplied to an industrial user, then this exemption can apply. So it means that you may avoid including the UFI on the label as long as you put it on the SDS.
Thank you very much. Then the next question is intermediates. Are industrial mixtures used as intermediates in scope of PCN, poison center notification, if their final use is medicinal use and therefore out of scope? And Daniele, yes, please.
Yes, this is similar to a question we have already answered. So the CLP regulation foresees some exemption, so total exemption for certain mixture which are used, including, for example, as a medicine, when they are in the finished state intended to be used by the user. So you should check the Article 1 and also our guidance mention these exemptions. And we have some clarification in our Q&A on the ECHA website, where we talk a bit more in detail about this concept. So basically, the basic line is that the mixture, when it's used for these purposes, is exempted when it's in the final state intended for the user.
Okay, thank you very much. Then the next question is about fees. If a member state requires fees for the submission, will I receive an invoice from ECHA? Would this be Heidi for you?
Indeed, thanks for the question. We know that some member states, there's only a handful that do require fees for the poison center notifications. In any case, you will not receive an invoice from ECHA, but you may receive an invoice from those member states. We have a member state overview document on our poison center website. And from here, you can see which member states will charge a fee. But the way that they go about sending their invoice may depend from member state to member state, and we don't have that information. But the answer to your question, no, you will not receive an invoice from ECHA.
Thank you, Heidi. The next question is about the security of the information. How national authorities guarantee the security of information? And which one of, okay, yes. Daniele.
Yes, I understand this is a relevant issue. So basically, the national authorities, they receive the information, they access the information, either receiving directly. So when you submit information, some of the member states, they receive it directly via a system called e-delivery, or they access the information when they don't have their own database, they can access the database set up by ECHA. So ECHA and the national authorities, they have signed a specific service level agreement where the member state, they understand that this is their responsibility to ensure the confidentiality of the information. the information can be used only for those purposes specified in CLP. So for emergency purposes, or for statistical analysis, for risk management measures. And the member states, they are under this service level agreement, are audited. So they have to ensure and they have to prove that information is treated with confidentiality.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniele. And the next question is about the reuse of UFI. Can a UFI that is already printed on labels be used to create a new notification if a legal entity cannot access the notification prepared by a previous legal entity? Would this be Daniele?
Yes. The question is not pretty clear, but let's say the same UFI can be used in different notification and even submitted by different legal entity, as long as the composition is the same. So if you're sure that the composition is the same, you can use the same UFI, even if it was prepared and submitted by different legal entities. This is because the UFI, as we explained many times, is not necessarily linked to a specific company, but is used to identify a specific mixture composition.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is about the industrial. Could you clarify the differences and obligations between industrial use and a product used at an industrial site? So which one of you would like to take this one?
Thank you, Anita. I can answer this one. Indeed, the obligations are the same if the mixture is hazardous for certain conditions, also if it's placed on the market. So the obligations are the same. It needs to have a poison center notification. The difference between industrial use and something used at an industrial site, well, I did outline in my presentation, industrial use, which means industrial use only, is something that is only ever handled or used at an industrial site. Therefore, it is not further formulated downstream and made available either directly or indirectly as a mixture in mixture to consumer or professional users. I hope that clarifies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next one is the update needs. So if the market placements are changed, does the notification need to be updated? And Heidi, yes, I can see you would like to take this one.
Yes, indeed, the notification must be updated. If the market placement has changed, you should notify with an update before you actually place on the market. You can do this in our tools. You can select that your notification is to be updated, and then you select the new market areas that you wish to place on the market.
Thank you very much. The next is about who needs to submit the notification. So we import and are the end user of chemical produced in other EU country. Who needs to submit the notification? Both us and producer in our own countries, or are they responsible for both submissions?
Yes, thank you, Anita. So the obligation under Article 45 apply to importer and downstream users, so formulators. So whoever uses a mixture to do specific activities, qualifying as a formulator, and importer, importing the mixture within the EU. If after being imported in the EU, the mixture is then sold and supplied further in the supply chain without any change, then this supplier will normally be considered as distributors. So according to the current version of the legal text, which we know that is under revision, distributors, they are not direct duty holder, even if they have to make sure that the information about the mixture that they are supplying is available to the appointed body. This normally happens by a notification from the supplier for the formulator or the importer who has imported the mixture into the EU. So in principle, if the formulator notifies in all the country where this mixture is placed on the market, there are no other obligation for the distributors.
Okay, thank you, Daniele. The next concerns about the transitional period. If the mixture is used only in industrial use and national notification has been done in 2022, should this mixture have poison center notification done and UFI with it before 1st of January 2024, or can the transitional period used for it? And which? Okay. Okay.
Yes, we're arguing over the questions here. Indeed, if you have made a notification before the compliance date in the 1st of January 2024, and you've done so through the national notification systems, then indeed you can benefit from the transition period. You can benefit for an additional year, because from the 1st of January 2025, this is the end of the transition period.
Thank you, Heidi. And the next question. Hello, in case my supply mixture to a distributor, should I update my notification if marketplaces of distributor are different from what I declare on my submission? And Daniele, yes, please.
Yes, I was explaining before. So currently the direct notification obligation applied to downstream users and importers. So importers into the EU and distributed downstream users are those who, for example, formulate the mixture or repackage, or they perform all these activities that under REACH and CLP fall under the definition of downstream users. The distributors itself does not have direct obligation at the moment, even if they have obligation to make sure that the information is available to the appointed body of the countries where they are placing the mixture on the market. So what they can do is either they inform their supplier about, for example, the specific trade name or the specific market where they are distributing the mixture, and the supplier may update the notification, but the distributors has the possibility to submit themselves the notification if, for example, they want to keep the information confidential. So as I said, the direct obligation, yes, is on the supplier, but the distributors can notify.
Okay, thank you. And then about confidential composition. Can you do a poison center notification without the UFI when the composition is not confidential? Which one? Okay, Heidi, please.
Thank you for the question. If you need to make a poison center notification, if you're obliged to make a poison center notification, you must include a UFI. The UFI is a information requirement and it needs to be included in the notification and on the label. That's part of the that's written in the legislation. So this is a requirement, regardless of whether the composition is confidential or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi, for the clarification. Then the next one. If a mixture is on shelf or with distributors, should they be stickered over with a UFI after the transition time? And okay, Daniele, could you take this? Thank you.
Yes, we have actually information on the guidance, so we always suggest checking when you have doubts, because many of these doubts are clarified in the guidance. And basically, if the duty holder, which at the moment is the importer or downstream user, have complied with the obligation at the time of the supply, then the transitional period applied. There's no need for the distributors to relabel the mixture already on the shelves. The duty holder, who is the downstream users and the importer, they would have to relabel the product before placing the mixture on the market. But the mixture already supplied to a distributor and in compliance with the obligation at the time of supply does not need to be relabeled. And as I said, we have a Q&A and we have also information on the guidance which you can check for more detail.
Okay, thank you. Then confidential mixture and classifications. We supply a confidential mixture with no classification. Also, no component is classified. However, a customer uses it up to a classified mixture. So for them, it's a MIM. So a customer needs to do a poison center notification, but our supplied mixture is confidential. How to guarantee this confidentiality? Yes, Daniele, please.
Yes. So basically, the obligation do not apply to mixture which are not classified. So you are not obliged to classify. But again, in the guidance, we clarify the fact that mixture which are not classified, they can still end up being used in a formulation of a mixture which is classified and need to be notified. Now, the information about components, either classified or not classified, is important for the poison center when they have to formulate the emergency response. Also, because no information means basically no knowledge, and they have to guess what they could do. So we always suggest in the guidance, we recommend to voluntary, it's possible to voluntary notify. Also because this facilitates exactly the customer who needs the information to classify, to notify. And by notify your mixture which is not classified and applying a UFI, which is not mandatory but is recommended, you can protect your confidential information because you can provide the UFI of your mixture to your customer, who can then use it to identify the MIM, and then the poison center will have the link to the information without the need to share confidential information with your customer.
Thank you, Daniele. And then, is import of a chemical product for use only within our own facilities considered as placing on the market, and therefore need notification to the poison center?
Yes, thank you. The definition of import is basically under REACH and CLP. Import is deemed to be placed on the market. So a company, again, we have a specific case and some example in the guidance where we specify that the mixture which we import may be used by the importer themselves, and maybe also used then placed on another market. So in that case, the notification is required in both places. So the first country where the mixture is imported, because as I said, import means place on the market, and then also eventually the other member state where you place on the market afterward.
Thank you, Daniele. And then about the hazardous chemicals, is UFI code not needed for product with only one hazardous chemical? And would you, Heidi, take this one? Yes.
Okay. It's not entirely clear what is meant here by one hazardous chemical. If it is a substance, then substance are not within the scope of poison center notifications. But if it is a product with one hazardous substance and, for instance, water, then you have a mixture. And if that mixture is classified, then you will need to make a notification and hence include the UFI with that notification and on the label of the product.
Thank you. Then the next one is, how can a distributor verify if his supplier has notified the mixer throughout the portal, Poison Center portal? And which one of you would? Okay, so Heidi, please, yes.
Well, the distributor cannot, if the distributor can verify if his supplier has notified the mixture throughout the PCN portal, there is no way that he can log in and have a look, but he will need to get that information directly from the distributor himself, the supplier himself.
Thank you very much. And the next question concerns the just dissemination of the information. So do combinations of articles as containers, is the information, is the information submitted in a Poison Center notification disseminated on the ECHA website, as occurs, for example, with the REACH registrations? Okay, so Heidi, please, yes.
No, the information is not disseminated on the ECHA website. The main reason being is that the information is not submitted to ECHA, it is submitted to the appointed bodies. They are the recipients of the information that is sent in a Poison Center notification.
Thank you very much. And now the question that I almost jumped into. So, do combinations of articles as containers and hazardous mixtures also have to be notified? I believe, Daniele, you would like to say.
Yes. Also here we would like to remind the guidance. The guidance explain exactly what is under the scope of Article 45 of Annex VIII. So basically, a mixture incorporated in an article is in a downstream user activity, so the mixture will need to be notified. The answer will be a bit maybe too long. I want just to refer you to the section 3.1.4 of the guidance, where it explains how an object can be classified. You have to read this in combination with the guidance on the REACH guidance on substances in article. But basically, you have to decide yourself whether you have a substance or mixture, which can be solid or liquid. So it is not necessarily liquid. You can have a combination of an article and a substance and mixture. So in that case, this mixture needs to be notified, or you can have an article as such. So then there's no need to notify. So you have to define first what you have, if it's an article or if it's a mixture incorporated in an article, and then you can conclude that you need to notify or not. As I said, I will refer you to the guidance on Annex VIII and guidance on samsazine article, and then come back to us to our help desk in case you need more specific information on your case.
Thank you very much. And the next is about when selling product portfolio to another company. If a company decides to completely sell the production portfolio to another company and the Poison Center notification is already submitted with the first company, is the second company required to submit notifications for the same products, or is there some duty for the first company and already existing Poison Center submissions? And which... Okay, so Daniele.
Yes. So basically, in the PCN system, we don't have such a asset transfer. You may have it in REACH and other regulatory processes. In PCN, we don't have it. It's not possible to transfer asset. This is because basically the information in principle is submitted to the appointed body. It's not owned by ECHA, so it's not linked to your legal entity account. It cannot be moved from one legal entity to another. So when a company sells complete the portfolio, this happens the same that it can happen during merging or splitting of companies. The new legal entity has to submit a new notification. Now, in the Euclid system allows you to export and re-import the data set, so you don't necessarily need to recreate from scratch the notification. But the new legal entity has to resubmit because it is not possible otherwise to inform the appointed bodies, which are the recipients of information, that the duty holder has changed.
Thank you. And the next question is does the UFI number have to be on the label for industrial mixtures or only in the MSDS?
So there's a possibility here to decide. The legal test gives you the possibility to choose between including the UFI on the label or on the SDS. As we explained earlier, this does not apply only to in mixture intended for industrial use only, which are the object of the upcoming compliance date, but it applies to all the mixtures supplied to industrial at industrial site, even if they are then further down included in consumer professional product. In those cases, in the consumer professional product, the UFI has to be on the label, but when it's supplied to industrial site, then it's not needed as long as included in on the SDS.
Okay, and then concerns the UFI changes of the MIM. In case our supplier of a MIM changes his UFI for commercial reason, but there are no changes in the composition, which reason of poison center update do we have to select in Euclid? And Heidi, if you could take this one.
So the supplier has changed their MIM UFI for commercial reasons. Indeed, this is possible. But if there is no change of composition and you are completely sure of that, then there is, strictly speaking, no reason to update the poison center notification. But of course, if you do decide to do that, it is possible as well. In Euclid, you can select the update reason if it's not in the drop-down list, but it is possible to perhaps make the selection, I'm going from memory here, changing product identifier, or if that doesn't sound too suitable, then it is also possible to include a justification in free text for the update reason.
Thank you. Then there's a question concerning exceptions to the 24/7 telephone information. In accordance with Annex VIII, in the case of limited submissions, a 24/7 information telephone number is required. Are there any exceptions to this rule? And Heidi, would you like to take this one?
Okay, so indeed, I think I've already answered this one today and also in the presentation as well. Yes, a limited submission does require rapid access to the information, which has to be provided around the clock, 24/7. The exceptions to this rule is that it must be provided in the language for that member state. Okay, so it can be outside of the member state. It can be an external provider, but it has to be provided in the relevant language.
Thank you for this. Then the next question. Based in Switzerland, we are a manufacturer for professional used products. In one country, there are different importers. Who is responsible to create UFI codes? Is there possibility to have one external European company to create them all for all our importers and for all European countries? And Daniele, yes, please.
So Switzerland is outside the EU, so the CLP regulation does not apply to Switzerland and to the Swiss companies. So the duty holder here are the company, the EU legal entities importing from Switzerland in the EU, but they're the legal entity based in EU. So each importer, as long as they are different legal entities, they have to comply with this obligation in all the country where they are importing, meaning it means they're placing the mixture on the market. Now, the UFI code, as we said earlier, if the mixture is the same, the composition is the same, this can be easily be created by any of those companies and can be reused by every company, as long as the composition is the same. The same UFI can be used by different companies and by for different products. But as I said, the obligation apply to all the legal entity importing, the EU legal entity importing into the EU. The Swiss supplier, of course, can support with the information, and in principle can support even in the preparation of the notification, as any consultant can do by using, for example, the foreign user functionality.
Thank you, Daniele. And next is the MIM suppliers and where to notify. Does MIM from supplier have to be notified to the countries where our mixture containing that MIM is to be notified. If the supplier of MIM supplies only to Germany, but we would like to supply mixture containing that MIM into Germany and France, for this case, does the supplier have to notify the MIM to France as well? So would you like to, Daniele?
Yes. So as we said, and as explained in the guidance, each duty holder has the obligation to notify in all those countries where the mixture that they are placing on the mixture is placed on the market by themselves, or possibly by the downstream users. So if this mixture is used in other country to be formulated in new mixture, the new formulator will have the obligation to notify. Now, of course, the whole point of this whole exercise of this provision is not just to tick a box, but it's to make sure that the relevant information is available to appointed body and ultimately poison center to formulate emergency response. So if a supplier knows that the mixture is used to formulate another mixture, of course we expect communication among supplier, because the customer will need the information to be submitted to their own to the relevant member state appointed body, and this can be done by sharing the information or notifying your mixture, which will be used as a MIM in the other member states. So then the information is available, and as we said before, you can use, for instance, the UFI to protect the confidentiality. If your customer doesn't have this information, they will have to notify by providing the limited information on the MIM they have available.
Thank you, Daniele. The next question concerns VAT and UFI. Is it a requirement to use the company VAT to generate the UFI code? And yes, Heidi, if you could reply.
It most certainly is not a requirement to use the company VAT to generate the UFI code. There are several ways that you can generate the UFI code. You can go to our Poison Centre website where we have our UFI generator, and there you do have the option to add a company VAT. In some cases, some companies don't want to do that, so that they can select a tick box which specifies that they don't want to use the company VAT. Alternatively, if you are generating UFIs in bulk, this would be likely done in your own systems using the UFI algorithm, which we do make freely available on the Poison Centre website. In this case, you do have the option to use a company VAT, or you have the I'm trying to think of the name, Daniela, instead of the company VAT, we have, instead of using the company VAT, we've had a mind blank. But there is you can generate like a company code, I think it is a company code. You can generate that and use that in place of the VAT. Apologies for that that mind loss there. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Heidi. The next concerns non-EU companies. So for non-EU companies with a legal entity based in the EU, can Poison Centre notifications be made via the legal entity or only by an representative? And Daniel.
Yes. So first of all, in CLP, only representative does not exist. So there is no such a figure or operator like only representative. So the obligation are with the importer or the downstream users. For non-EU companies, they are supposed to, we are expect them to support the fulfillment of the obligation. If this legal entity based in the EU, which is mentioned in the question, means that this legal entity function as the importer, then of course they have the obligation to notify. Otherwise, is the importer is another legal entity. What we are suggesting also in the guidance is that the non-EU company can, via a EU-based legal entity, submit a voluntary notification and then provide the EU fee to the actual importer, who can actually fulfill their obligation, and they can identify they can use the EU fee to prepare the notification.
Thank you very much. And then national systems. Are there countries which will continue to have their national notification systems available?
We do have some information about this, at least the national notification systems for industrial use mixtures. There are a very small number of member states that are allowing this up until the compliance date, and then from there on they would expect notifiers to use the ECHA submission portal. But there may be some additional member states as well that we don't have too much information on. Therefore, I would suggest that if you have any doubt, or if you would like to use the national route, that you would check with those appointed bodies that are relevant in that situation.
Thank you very much. And the next question about mixture names. Can I use the same name for two different mixtures with different EU fees? And Daniela,
yes. So the system is, and the regulation from this point of view is quite flexible. So the most important things, the main principle is that you have to use the same EU fee only for the same composition. Then how the company wants to create and place the product on the market is their own business. So if two different products they have the same trade name, it's business decision. The important thing is that you don't use the same EU fee for different mixture composition. Then the format is quite flexible. So in the same notification, the same dossier, you can include information for different product, or you can submit to different notification even if the mixture is the same.
Thank you, Daniela. And the next concerns errors. If there is an error in a submitted notification, is it possible to correct it when the EU fee does not change? Or does a new submission with a new EU fee have to be made? And would you like to take this, Heidi, please?
Good question. It all depends on the error, I guess. In some cases, it is possible to correct it with an update. In many cases, it may not be possible to correct it with an update. And for instance, this might be if you made an error in the mixture composition, then submitting an update wouldn't really be possible. In those cases, you would need to cancel the submission and then make a new submission after that.
Thank you very much. And the next one is it possible to use the EU fee of a manufacturer if you, as a supplier, rewrite your own MSDS? The name and receipt stay the same. Is it possible to use a self-generated EU fee, which is used for the notification for your own company and for the sister company? So in this case, the name and recipe still stays the same, so the composition. Daniel, yes.
Yes. So again, Again, this is up to the business decision of the company. It's flexible. So regardless who generated the UFI and regardless the product characteristics, the same UFI can be used by different companies, can be used in different notification, and can be used to identify different products. Because I said the UFI is meant to identify the mixture composition. So you can use it in a relatively flexible way as long as this principle, one UFI, one composition, is ensured.
Thank you, Daniela. The next question concerns voluntary notifications. For non-EU entities, you have said an EU company can do a voluntary notification on behalf of the non-EU entity. Then the EU customer can refer to this as a 100% MIM in the initial notification. In this case, does the EU company that is doing the voluntary submission have any legal responsibility for the product? And Daniela, yes, if you could take this one.
So the responsibility for the product is for mixture or substance placed on the market is on the supplier. Each supplier placing a mixture or a substance also on the market, they have responsibility on that product and the information they are submitting. Now, a voluntary of course, the EU-based legal entity submitting a voluntary notification does not have responsibility on the product itself because they're not placing the product on the market, but they're responsible for the information that they are providing to their EU importer via this notification. So it is very important for the importer making use of this solution to be clear and to discuss with the non-EU supplier because they are responsible for the information. So they decide themselves to rely on this UFI and the information behind the UFI. So as I said, the responsibility for the product placed on the market is on the supplier placing the product on the market. And then it will be up to the specific agreement that this company have and the national enforcement authorities to decide in case of problem. For example, if the information behind the MIM notification is not correct or is misleading.
And the next is about the checking the UFI. Can industry as downstream user check validation of a supplier's UFI? And would this Heidi, yes, if you could take this one.
Can industry as downstream user check the validation of a supplier's UFI? No, it is not possible. There is no UFI database as such for this to occur. The fact that it is notified and on the label, I think is good enough to proof to have that validation from the supplier.
Thank you. And the next one is, if we have a concentrated product that is transported into EU and then diluted to be commercialized to general public and professionals, is it needed to notify the concentrated product?
Yes. It depends what this concentrated product is. The notification are required for mixtures. So the concentration of the product is not really relevant here. I mean, it's relevant because the information needs to be included in the notification. But if you are importing in the EU a mixture, then you have to notify. Then diluting this mixture, it means that you are formulating a new mixture. Then also the customer will have to notify it themselves. So it depends what it is. If it's a mixture already, even if it's concentrated, then yes. Then if it's hazardous, yes, you need to notify.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the next question. Some products have minor health hazards as indicated by an exclamation mark warning. In such cases, will a PCA notification be required? Also, do they come under the purview of a UFI number requirement? And Heidi, I believe if you could take this one.
Okay, so I see here that it has been classified as having health hazards if it's indicated with an exclamation mark. So in this case, poison center notification is required, meaning a UFI number or a UFI code is also required, both on the label and in the notification.
No. Okay, the next one is clearly for Daniele. On this last question answered by Daniele, I thought he originally said that non-EU entity can do the voluntary submission and give the UFI to the EU importer. It was in the context of where the only representative is in place, but the OR is not the duty holder. Or is it the OR who does the voluntary submission? So if you can clarify this, Daniele.
Yes, sorry if I was not clear earlier. So the CLP does not have this only representative person. So it doesn't exist the only representative in CLP. It's only in REACH. So there's no only representative. The importer has to notify. Now, if he has problem to get enough information from the non-EU supplier, the non-EU supplier can appoint a EU-based legal entity to make this voluntary submission and provide a UFI to the EU importer. I hope now it's clear.
Okay, so we have then, there were a few votes now for the next question. If X mixture is transported to another EU country to be manufactured into another Y mixture that is intended for general use, is X mixture considered a mixture for industrial use only? And which one of you would like to take this one?
Read again. So if I need to report manufacturing. As we explained in the, hopefully it was clear enough in the presentation you've just seen, the identification of the use and then the submission type, notification time depends on the end use. So if a mixture which you are importing or formulating is used downstream in the form itself or in the formulation of a further mixture which is used for consumer or professional use, also your home mixture, the original mixture, needs to be notified for professional or consumer use, because as we said, as we explained in the presentation, the end use of the mixture is relevant here, also for the original mixture.
Thank you, Daniela. Then, so do hazardous substances, except environmental hazards, that are placed on the market with a trade name and not with their substance name have to be submitted to the poison centers? The background to this is that only the trade name is on the label and not the substance name.
Yes, so we want to re-clarify again that substances themselves are not subject to the notification obligation. So you do not need to submit a notification for the substance. You need to submit a notification for a mixture, and then you have to identify the substances included in this mixture. So there is no inconsistency between the label and the notification itself, because you don't, if you are placing on the market a product which is a substance with a specific trade name, this does not need to be notified.
Thank you. And the next one, UFI generation. If the EU-based entity is submitting a voluntary submission for the non-EU entity, can the UFI be generated without the VAT number of that legal EU entity? Or would it be a better option to have a generated UFI as classic route of the submission with the VAT number? So would you, Heidi, take this one, please? Thank you.
It's not strictly necessary to have the VAT number to generate a UFI. I was a little unsure when you mentioned the VAT number of a particular legal entity, but it would need to be an EU legal entity to use the VAT number. If it's a non-EU legal entity, then their VAT number wouldn't be accepted.
Thank you. The next question is, in case products on the market are not classified owing to confidentiality concerns, what is the way out? And Daniele, yes, I believe.
Yes, that's a bit of a weird question. Maybe we can provide more information by submitting a question to our help desk, but in principle, you should classify. So every supplier is responsible for the product they place on the market, being it a substance or a mixture. And we have to remember that now we are talking about poison center notification obligation, but the obligation for suppliers, they go much farther than that. So you have many other obligations under CLP. So you have the obligation to classify and label the mixture. So in principle, we don't see how you can place a mixture on the market without classifying. Now, it's true that according for the purpose of CLP, you are not obliged to test, even if for physical hazard, yes, you should test. For the rest, you should make use the available information and possibly take over the classification from your supplier. But the mixture should be classified. So you should use all the information that you have available. If there is no information at all available under your responsibility, you can consider it not classified, but you are supposed to update in case a registration or submit a notification as soon as you have information available.
Thank you, Daniele. And the next question concerns the supplemental information. A mixture with only the EUH 208 supplemental information. Does this mixture have to be notified? And which one of you would like to? Okay, Heidi, please.
Okay, thanks for the question. I'm observing some of the questions here are indeed already answered, not just in the guidance, but in the Poison Centre notification or the PCN practical guide. So in our practical guide, which you can find on our PCN website, it says here, some mixtures are classified only for EUH 208, which applies to mixtures that are not classified as sensitizers, but however contain at least one sensitizing substance. The guidance on Annex VIII considers these mixtures are only subject to voluntary notification. So I hope that answers your question. When in doubt, go to the PCN Practical Guide or the Annex VIII guidance.
Thank you very much, Heidi. And then we have the next question. The notification of an industrial use only has a trade name of the country or a generic name, like, for example, the content of active substance? And Daniele, please, yes.
Yes, so again, substances themselves do not need to be notified. So we are only talking about mixture. If you're placing a substance on the market, you will have other obligation under other regulation or even other obligation under CLP, but you don't need to notify. So you have to notify mixture and include the information about its component. And the legal text explains how the components, substance component, should be identified. Normally, they should be identified as best as possible in order to facilitate the work of the Poison Center. Is that
So indeed, you would, just to add a little bit, you would include the trade name, but if you do have additional names like generic names, I think I answered earlier, then there is room in the notification to include that as well.
Thank you both for this one. Then the next question concerns non-compliance. What are the legal penalties for not complying with the notification? And Daniele, yes.
Yes. Again, this is not the only obligation you have. I'm sure the CLP and REACH and other regulation, there are many other obligations that you have to comply with. So the main problem here is not penalties, is that the poison center will not have the information about your product. So if something accident happened with your product, the poison center, they will not have the information, or they will have to find the information in some other way, or in some other tool they were using before. So that should be your main concern. After that, of course, the CLP regulation does not prescribe any penalty. It's up to the national enforcement authorities, and that's the same for other provision of CLP and REACH. So it will be up to the national enforcement authorities to tell you which is the penalty.
Thank you very much, Daniele. And then the question, but UFI, having a UFI in a mixture for industrial use means that this mixture has been notified, or can it have a UFI without that it has been notified already? And which one of you? Okay, Daniele, please, yes.
Read again, just a second. Every mixture which is under the scope of Article 45 requires a UFI. So the UFI has to be generated and has to be included in the notification. Now, as we said before, for mixture used or supplied at industrial sites, the UFI does not necessarily need to be on the label, it can be on the STS. And another important thing is that it may happen for a practical reason that a UFI is included on the label of a product before the notification is made. This is not necessarily, I mean, it's legally possible, but it's something that we and the appointed body and Poison Center advise against, and they will not like to have because it's misleading. It's misleading for the customer, it's misleading for the user. So what we also explain in the guidance is that if for practical reason, for instance, you need to prepare your label in advance, you want to include a UFI on the label before submitting notification, please do that, but as close to the notification as possible.
Okay, and the next question is the MIM. Which is the country that we have to consider for industrial use only products, for MIM products? The country where it is manufactured, or all the countries where the product will be used? So Daniele, I believe.
Yes, so what we try to explain in the presentation, also in the guidance, is that the use of the mixture has to consider the end use, so the whole life cycle of the mixture. So it's not country, it's regardless of the country. So if the mixture that you are supplying will be used to formulate a new mixture which is used for consumer and professional use, or if the mixture itself is used down the supply chain, wherever it is, then you should consider that use. So also remember that we are in EU, we are aiming towards an harmonized system, and the product, they travel quite a lot across the countries. So it's important that all the information is available to all the member states, because a product which is used at the industrial site in one country may be used in a consumer product in another country and may return in the first country as a consumer product.
Okay. Thank you. And the next question concerns industrial professional use. So what is exactly the difference between industrial use and professional use? So
yes, thank you. That's a good question, and we realize that we don't have, I mean, a checklist doesn't exist or specific guidance. We should consider this on case by case, and also following a bit what happens in REACH. So you could even have a look to a specific one of the chapter of the guidance for chemical safety assessment and information requirement under REACH, and it's basically about the settings. So a mixture is for industrial use when it's used in an industrial setting. And this is what in few words we can say now. We can provide more information if you contact us via the help desk, but we realize that, as I said, there's no specific checklist or guidelines, but it's a case-by-case decision, and is mainly based on the settings. An industrial setting is normally a specific setting when there are already certain risk management measures in place, and normally the users of this mixture are already well trained and are aware of the risks.
okay, we are approaching the end of the session, so we have received a couple of questions that are a bit more specific or slightly out of scope, so we'll be replying in written to these ones. So we will still stay here for a couple of more minutes for any questions there might be. Okay, so we now take the last question. So if product is sold to professionals and client's factory to be refilled or repacked, is it proper if UFI is included only into our label of professional use, and for industrial bulk UFI is only in the SDS? So that's considering their responsibilities only. Okay, so Daniele, yes.
Yes, I hope I understand the question, but basically, first of all the duty holders here, they have obligation to notify. As you said, the company performing activities such as repacking, refilling is considered a downstream user, so they will have notification obligation themselves. The UFI on the SDS or on the label depends on the customer you are supplying the mixture to. So if your customer is a the industrial customer, you yourself, you can avoid including the UFI on the label as long as you include it on the SDS. But if you are supplying the mixture also to other customers which are not industrial, then you have to include the UFI on the label. And every single duty holder has to make this consideration. So your client who is refilling, repacking, his downstream users, they will have to notify, and then it will depend who they are supplying the mixture to.
Okay, we are now at the end of this webinar. So I would like to thank the panelists here on our side, and also and all you participants for submitting all the questions. And like we mentioned earlier, all the questions will be answered in a Q&A document soon and will be made available. And the best way for you to get notified when this is ready is by subscribing to our weekly bulletin. And this can be done at echa.europa.eu/subscribe. So thank you very much to all of you for participating in this webinar.